Well, there's a quarterback, Mark, that has, I think, no disassociation with cognitive ability, and that has been Tom Brady because he has literally been the poster boy for physical underachiever, and yet on the football field, absolute overachiever. And I mean, he's the guy that everyone is hoping that Brock Purdy can be. Like, he's just the classic guy who is, late round pick. Everyone overlooked him, and he went on to become the greatest football player that we've ever seen. However, Mike Florio last week kind of alluded to the fact that Tom Brady sometimes doesn't always mean what he says, or, of course, as most people do, tend to change their mind, such as when he did last year. Now, I don't want to rehash everything that we said about this, Mark, but Mike Florio, along with some others, have not only alluded to the fact that Tom Brady might not be done with football, but that if he wasn't done with football, that the location for him to be in would be San Francisco. That wasn't an unnovel idea before he retired, but after he retired, Mark, of course, we've sort of written everything off. Look, you know how I feel about this. I don't think the door is 100% closed. I think there's maybe a toe kind of cracked in there. And if there's one team that's going to burst down the door and be able to get this 45-year-old going on 46 back onto the field and onto a winning team, might just be the team he grew up rooting for. I don't know.
Maybe if he does come back, I would have the Niners, high on, the list of teams that he would come back for. I just don't think it's likely at all that he does come back. I know that, your hot take throughout the offseason, early offseason up to this point has been, hey, Tom Brady, you never know. And if it does happen, you can victory lap the hell out of it. But I'm not sure, just because there's a little scuttlebutt from Mike Florio, who kind of seems to dabble in these sorts of rumors pretty often. I don't think it matters all that much. This doesn't really change my opinion at all. I'm curious, though, Evan. I think we both agreed that the answer for the 49ers quarterback position this offseason was either just based on the way that the free agent market was set up and what the Niners can do monetarily. It seemed like it was Tom Brady for a 1-year deal or stick with what you got. And maybe you sign a veteran guy to be your third stringer or whatever. I think we both agree that those were the two paths, Tom Brady or stick with what you have. You're not getting an Aaron Rodgers. You're not getting Derek Carr. Niner fans, I'm sorry, you're not getting Lamar Jackson. Like that, that's not happening. It seemed like there were two avenues, and a 1-year deal for Tom Brady seemed to make a decent amount of sense with two young quarterbacks there coming off of injuries. Learn for 1 year behind the greatest quarterback of all time. You can make that make sense. At what point in the offseason, though, Evan, do you need an answer from Tom Brady? If this is something that Kyle Shanahan is still thinking about, if he's still wondering, could we get Tom Brady for 1 year? Like, Tom, I'm calling you up. I'm shooting you a text every day. Like, at what point do the 49ers need a final definitive answer? Again, I'm still assuming the answer is a resounding no. But at what point do they just have to move on and go with what they got?
They let Jimmy Garoppolo wait until August to make that decision.
But regardless, Lance was their starter that season.
Yes. I believe that if Tom Brady eventually wants to come play for your team, right now, one, I don't think it would take that long. But two, I think you kind of give him as long as he wants. Let me ask you this, Mark. If it would be on the table, because this is the real question, like if he does come out of retirement, if it is a possibility, do you do it? Like that's the question.
I say if it happened in the next
Or do you
3
roll
months
with Trey Lance and an injured Brock Purdy?
In the next 3 months, Tom Brady calls up Kyle Shanahan and said, hey, let's ride.
Because I want to be a 49er.
Then, yeah. But if it happens in late July when the team is in training camp, I don't know. At that point, Trey Lance has gone through OTAs, has taken every single first team rep. He started training camp. Who knows where Brock Purdy is at that point? Maybe they see something they love out of Trey Lance. I'm not so sure. I do think the timing here matters just a little bit. This conversation is probably meaningless anyway, because I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think that the timing matters here. And I know maybe Tom Brady doesn't need a ton of time to get ready for, his 30th season in the NFL, or 22nd season or whatever it is.
50th,
But
it's
I
fine.
but I do think Tom is also the kind of guy who would want to go into a season with an off season, getting to know his receivers and getting to know his team. So I get, this conversation probably it will prove to be moot, either because he won't come back, or if he decides to come back, it will be sooner as opposed to later. Because you get the sense he would want to be training with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and head out to Tennessee and work with George Kittle or whatever it is. Uh, that would probably be my guess. But if for whatever reason it is pushed back and there's still a decision looming, I think there comes a time, probably in late July, maybe early August, where Kyle Shanahan just says, "All right, Tom, I can't wait anymore. We're going with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. I'm sorry."
Yes, I think that's reasonable, but I also think that, and look, the Tom Brady we saw this past year was not the Tom Brady even from the year prior. Like, he has taken a steep decline as far as his play. So you'd have to weigh that as well. I just think that unless you feel confident that Trey Lance is going to take the next step and it's going to be a big step, you got to keep everything on the table, including a 46-year-old as your starting quarterback. Because even though we feel like the 49ers have been very successful by all standards, 3 out of the last 4 years, NFC title game, there is going to be a pressure to win next season. If they do not win next year, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Could be Brock Purdy, could be Trey Lance, could be you, Mark. If they don't win next year, there's going to be hell to pay. And I think Kyle Shanahan knows that. Even though he's set, he feels confident. It's not like he's going to get fired or anything. But where there is smoke, there is fire as far as this report is concerned, I believe. And if
Ugh.
Tom Brady really decides that he wants to do this, then I think he's kind of got his pick of the litter. I like, again, it's a small, narrow window that we're trying to thread here, or needle we're trying to thread here. But all I'm saying is don't keep it off the table. Like, okay, we have the question at the bottom. I know we don't have a ton of time here, but the question at the bottom is this the best conspiracy theory of the offseason? I would say yes.
I don't know what else would be up there. I was going to ask you, okay, let's assume the 49ers swing and miss on Tom Brady for whatever reason. He doesn't come out of retirement, or he does
Yep.
and he goes somewhere else, whatever the case is. The other NFL or the other quarterback news of the week, Carson Wentz released by the Commanders. He's coming to San Francisco. What do you think, Evan? Niners need Carson Wentz as their third string quarterback?
I don't know if the 49ers need Carson Wentz as their starting quarterback, but I don't know if Trey Lance wouldn't mind another North Dakota State Bison being in the quarterback room along with him. Now,
Hey,
there
bring an
was
Easton stick while they're
yeah,
at it.
I was going to say there was a gap between the two, but hey, Carson Wentz walked so that Trey Lance could run. If we're really talking about FCS quarterbacks, Carson Wentz was one of the first, if not the first. Well, he was definitely the highest selected FCS quarterback that I can remember. And Trey Lance, as a result, is kind of get him in the benefit of the doubt, considering he only had one real collegiate year. Meanwhile, Carson Wentz, I believe, was 2 years as the starter at NDSU, 2 national championships, neither here nor there. But Trey Lance, I don't know if he'd be so opposed. Get that Bison back in there, Mark.
Yeah, no, I am so far out on that. Everywhere Carson Wentz has gone, he's proven not only he's a bad quarterback, but bad situations, bad locker room environments have followed him. I'm not necessarily blaming it on him, but it's kind of been 3 teams in a
Yes, you
row.
are.
The
Yes, you are.
okay, I am. I'm blaming it on Carson Wentz. The end of his Eagles tenure, the disaster in Indianapolis, in this most recent year with Washington with the Commanders. Now, I mean, that Commanders team was probably going to be a dumpster fire regardless. But I could not be further out on Carson Wentz, even if he accepts the veteran minimum and is willing to be the Niners' third string quarterback. No, thank you. Go get a third stringer somewhere else. The Niners should not go after Carson Wentz. I'm out on that.
Yeah, from all the reports, there's been a lot more off the field issues with Carson Wentz than even on the field. And that's pretty hard to deal with considering he's a turnover prone quarterback that will give the ball to the other team more often than not. Um, no, I don't want Carson Wentz, jamming his uh, political, religious, other views down the throats of his teammates in an already progressive area. I don't think he would be welcome in San Francisco personally, and he's got the label of not just a loser, but almost a little parasitic kind of quality to him at this point. So I think that, yeah, he would love to be in San Francisco, would allow him to rewrite his image, and he probably wouldn't do too much and would be allowed to then flock and, fly to wherever other location he's going to then blow up. But no, I'm all the way the hell out on Carson Wentz being in San Francisco. And honestly, I don't think he should be a starting quarterback anywhere in the NFL next year, at least not for a team that wants to win.
Absolutely not. Yeah, if your goal is to tank, go out and get Carson Wentz and let him start 10 games because he will win no more than 2 of those 10. The other thing, I think if the Niners are going out and getting a veteran quarterback, Evan, to be their third stringer, don't get a guy with a gigantic injury history. If you happen to get to a third string quarterback, your option beyond the third string quarterback is Josh Johnson level. So you want to make sure that your third string quarterback, if you get to him, can stay healthy for the rest of that season. Carson Wentz has not shown an ability to do that. So if you're going to get a veteran, make sure it's a veteran who, of course, probably not very good because that's who the market is for third string quarterbacks, but at least someone who has stayed relatively healthy in his career, and that is not Carson Wentz.
Put this in the cap, Mark. The 49ers will draft a quarterback this year, and we can dig into
I'm with
who
you.
potentially in the next episode on Thursday. But that's going to wrap up this edition of the 415ers. Appreciate you, as always, tuning in. Appreciate you, Mark. We will come to you on Thursday for your NFL free agent preview episode, also potentially looking at some of the combine guys. There's a lot. Even in the offseason, the NFL never sleeps, probably more so, honestly, than any sport, even with all the melodrama that surrounds the NBA and some of the crazy contracts that are handed out in the MLB. The NFL does not sleep, and neither do the 415ers, Mark. So I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah, combine this coming weekend. Get ready. We're about to see some players you've never heard of jump up draft boards because they did a shuttle cone really quickly. Get ready for it, Evan. I'm locked in.
You want to run the 40 with me, Mark?
You'll probably beat me, but I'm down.
Yeah, well, I pulled both hammies probably in the process, but that's okay. We may or may not put together something, maybe our own mini 415ers combine. TBD. I'd love to take the S2 cognition test to see how slow my brain actually is. But we will talk to you next time. Appreciate y'all tuning in. You're listening to the 415ers podcast on the Odyssey Sports Podcast Network.